Welcome to the High Adventure Scouting Podcast. This is the source for all things high adventure for scouts, scouters, and anyone else interested in promoting high adventure trips for our youth. You can find all kinds of great high adventure options for your scouts at highadventurescouting.com. We are constantly updating the list of cool trips, and we want your input on your best trip. Welcome, high adventure enthusiasts. We're excited, as always, to highlight a high adventure base on this edition of the High Adventure Scouting Podcast. Today, we're joined by Stephen Leonardi, Director of the Floodwood Mountain Reservation, and Jordan Brown, Program and Marketing Director for Northern New Jersey Council. Jordan was also a 2019 Trek Director at Floodwood Mountain Reservation. Now, Floodwood is located in Lake Clear, New York, which is near Lake Placid, home of two Winter Olympics, and it's operated by the Northern New Jersey Council of the Boy Scouts of America. Stephen and Jordan, thanks for joining us today on the High Adventure Scouting Podcast.
Hi, Rob. Hey, we're really thrilled to be on with you today. So thanks for pulling us together.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. I am too. I'm excited to hear about your programs. And you know, as always, I kind of give this caveat at the beginning. We want to give the listeners a little more information about your program offerings. I'm from the Midwest, so I don't know much about your programs, and I would assume that a lot of people outside of the area don't also. So I'm going to just jump into things and let you tell about the cool stuff going on up in your neck of the woods. So just give me a 30,000 foot view of kind of what you guys do, the kind of programs you do, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Hey, Jordan, how about I just give just a brief overview of the region, what the Adirondacks are all about, then we'll kick over and you can touch upon some of the cool programs we're doing. That sound good?
Perfect. Sounds great.
Yeah. So, Rob, the Adirondack State Park, believe it or not, it is 3 times the size of Yosemite. It's
Wow.
6 million acres. All in upstate New York. It's a fifth of New York State. People don't realize it. It's quite an extensive area. And Floodwood Mountain Reservation has been operating there for 50 years, believe it or not. And of course, in those 50 years, there's been quite a evolution of how the program goes. But we've evolved to a canoe trekking program, and we're fortunate to be in that area. I mean, just to kind of put it in perspective, Rob, I got a question for you here. What's the circumference of the Earth? I can see you Googling it. I can't.
No, I'm not. All I've heard is 25,000 miles. But
that's good. Yeah, that's really good. Well, the Adirondacks has got 30,000 miles of lakes and streams.
Wow.
Just in that 6 million acres, and they got to have over 3,000 lakes and ponds. So it's a vast area, and we're in the northern part of it. And fortunate to be so. The property was, actually, acquired many years ago. So it's a very pristine area, and managed by the Adirondack Park Association to, remain as wild as it possibly can while allowing as much human interaction. So we're very fortunate to be there and happy with our 2 base camp areas. Jordan was our Trek Director, and for those of you who, you realize the staffing and administration background in high adventure and trekking camps, Trek Director is just a critical component. We were fortunate with having Jordan come on board in 2019. So Jordan, take it away and tell us all the cool stuff you do.
Quite the introduction. You're going to give me a big head there.
But, there you go.
Well, yeah, so Floodwood, like Steve was saying, just in a very pristine, excellent location for all things high adventure. Many of our treks are canoe-based, so units will come in and they'll spend their first night in camp. The night that they get there, and then the next morning they will leave, typically for either a canoe trek from Rollins Pond, which is right on our property. Gorgeous, really private area that gives you a lot of access to dozens of different trek routes that you can take throughout the park. So we're really fortunate to have that property right there on Rollins Pond. Um, or something that's lesser known is that we can offer backpacking treks into the High Peaks Wilderness. That's another huge pull of the Adirondack Park, um, are the high peaks. And getting your 46, there are 46 high peaks in the Adirondack, so getting your 46 is a huge accomplishment and something that people really like to try to do, so our own staff included. So our backpacking treks are something unique about Floodwood that can help people achieve that goal if that's something they want, or if they just want complete immersion into the park. um, but some other great programs that we have a Trekking 101 program, and this is kind of an intro to trekking for troops or crew that are new to high adventure and have some younger scouts, so 11 and 12 years old. They're interested in high adventure and wilderness explanation, but this combines hiking, navigation, canoeing, and trekking activities all put into this week to kind of just ease them into the high adventure lifestyle, I guess. So it's kind of getting your feet wet, teaching you skills, to form a foundation that will lead to becoming an effective and safe trek participant, and hopefully eventually a leader. We love to see our campers come back and work as CITs, and then eventually come on as full staff members and trek leaders. That's really rewarding, really cool thing to see. um, and they can also earn a canoeing merit badge, wilderness survival, partials on camping and climbing sometimes, but a lot of great opportunities there.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah, so that's trekking 101.
merit. We're not a merit badge focused camp.
Mm-hmm.
We're a wilderness kind of exploration focused camp. But there are a small number of merit badges that kind of go along with the program and can just naturally be earned. A lot of groups that come up focus on the 50 miler award, which can easily be earned. And It's interesting. I got such a kick out of our staff because on their day off, I mean, they're canoeing and hiking all week long. And the day off, they go climb some of the high peaks. I'm going, wow, this is a
Mm-hmm.
this is a great bunch. Hey, Rob, I like to just take a couple seconds and talk about the staff, if I could.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I always ask about the staff and where they come
Mm-hmm.
from and
yeah,
their makeup. So that's
yeah.
always a good thing. So you read my mind.
Oh, good. The staff, it's a very unique staff, I think, because everybody is over 18 and most people are over 21. So the majority of the staff age, let's say, is 18 to 20, maybe 23 years old. And That allows us to do two things. One, uh, folks come onto the Floodwood staff because they have a natural appreciation for not only the program but the region and what the Adirondacks are all about. Some staff come from within northern New Jersey Council. They've been up to Floodwood, trekking many times. They're of the age they can come onto the staff. We call them voyagers. Obviously, the Department of Health calls them counselors. Um, Once they're 18, they can take a trek out on their own. But when they're 16 or 17, they can partner up with a mentor on the staff and kind of learn the ropes a little bit more. So there's one voyager is normally assigned to a trek, and if need be, because a group is having difficulty finding a second person over 21 for too deep leadership, where we work within our scheduling to assign a second a Voyager that's over 21 to make up that too deep leadership. So a Voyager can be 18 to 21 or over 21, and the same thing with the male female ratio. So we think it's important to try to uh, work to make it as easy as possible logistically for a group to come up. So they're outdoor folks with an appreciation of wilderness trekking, and they spend quite a bit of time with certifications and training if they don't already have it. I know Jordan was a kayaker and a hiker and a camper before she came, but There are, wilderness first aid certification, CPR, all of the needed types of skill sets which require that trained card are all part of our staff development and staff training. The other thing which we got into more this past year, obviously, we do various leaders meetings and so forth, but we had a lot of treks from outside the region, Virginia and Western Pennsylvania. So we did leaders meetings online for them, and we normally would have one or two voyages join in on that to give a program overview to the adult leaders and youth leaders that they wanted to have on the call. We would do a Zoom platform for that, and that that gave a real good opportunity to get information and answer questions. Sort of face to face, it is Zoom, but
Yeah.
it's sort of face to face.
Yeah.
So we were happy to be able to do that, and we're going to continue to do that. That works so well, to bring it into your living room, so to say.
That's a cool option to be able to do that before you get there. We all know the major high adventure bases around the country, and they offer some awesome programs. Have you been searching for a cool alternative from your typical high adventure trip? As a scout leader, I want to give our scouts some great alternatives. You need to check out highadventurescouting.com. You'll find information on over 30 different council high adventure bases in 24 states. Maybe you're looking for a do-it-yourself option and need some ideas. Maybe you've taken a great trip and you want to share your good fortune with your fellow scouts and scouters. Just send us the details and we'll publish your trip. Whatever your interest, highadventurescouting.com is the one-stop shop for all things high adventure. That's highadventurescouting.com. So,
Yeah.
that's really cool. One thing I wanted to ask you. You mentioned while it was fresh in your mind is wilderness first aid CPR. All of us looking at high adventure, we're all pretty aware of that. Is that something that you require for adults coming to your program, or is that what's the requirement on that? Is there one?
That's a good question. We do not require that for adults. It certainly is. It certainly is an added bonus, and the reason we don't require it, we we the support system in the region and what we've developed over time is very strong. Almost either through satellite communication or cell phone communication. Even though you're in the middle of the Adirondacks, most times. I guess Jordan, you might. I don't know if you got into some no cell areas. I know you were up in the St. Regis Wilderness area.
Mm.
That was probably poor cell connections. But most it certainly is a bonus, but we do not require it. And the reason is that your Voyager attached to the Trek is Wilderness First Aid certified. We've never had. I think that you know the worst injury I think we had in 2019 was a severely sprained ankle. So
And that happened right in camp.
yeah,
So.
it happened in camp. But we took him and got it X-rayed and everything, and that was pretty interesting. We didn't allow him to go out with his Trek, but we reconnected with the Trek about 2 days later on a portage, and this group was from Virginia, and we were lucky to that they had scheduled a Trek had a portage which we could basically drive to, and we reinserted the young man into the Trek, so he didn't miss the whole week, and they were just thrilled, that he could get back in on that Trek. So the Boy Scout, safety regulations and uh, the the adult leadership. You're going to have two adults on the Trek from the home troop or crew, plus the Voyager. So you have three adults on that Trek. So not required, but it's certainly is a plus. If someone has that certification. We
Sure.
also know
Well,
the location. We plot out the Trek route. Voyagers communicate back to the base camp if there's any changes in that itinerary. So we know every night. The itinerary might have to be changed midstream, and that's a good thing sometimes because it develops some leadership decision making amongst the youth leaders on the trek. um, and that information is always reported back to the base camp area, so we know where every trek is every night and every morning, where they're starting from, and where they're shooting for, the next night. So um, it's kind of a system that's been fine tuned over many years, and we're pretty happy with it right now. So safety, of course, is now we do require swimming. Obviously, you can be a beginner swimmer, even though everybody's always wearing life jackets all of the time. Um, the ability to swim, and,
Right.
and passing the standard BSA swimming test is is paramount for the people on trek. I don't know.
Exactly.
Uh,
Mhm.
Yeah, and I I asked the wilderness first aid question just because I'm knee deep in planning two national high adventures at our with our troop, and that was a discussion last night in our committee meeting. So,
yeah, yeah.
um,
I think
yeah, I
Philmont might require wilderness first aid certification, but
yep,
maybe the national camps
all the
might.
national, yeah.
Yeah,
If you go to Northern Tier or
yeah,
Sea Base or I don't know about the Summit, but I assume they're a little more based within the camp itself, Philmont, and so those are always things we have to look at as for our crews. So now you mentioned you've got canoeing and backpacking. Sounds like canoeing is the most popular. Um, this sounds a lot like being able to track your own um, uh, trek. And I've been to the Boundary Waters. We kind of did that.
Mm.
For those, a lot of people are familiar with Boundary Waters, and by extension, some will go through Northern Tier. But what is there a comparison there on how you basically go anywhere you want and kind of map your own route out?
Um, Essentially, yeah. So that's part of what makes Floodwood special is that most of our voyagers, when they come in, already have experience with the Adirondack Park and they know what they're doing and they know, based on a skill level of a group, what they're going to be able to handle. So before a unit comes up, we like to have a general idea of where they're going to be, whether in the St. Regis canoe area or the Saranac Lakes Wild Forest, because that just helps, well, from my end as a trek director, helps me get the proper permits in place and make sure that we have the correct group size. We have a good relationship with the rangers there, who work with us on, getting the right permits and paperwork and stuff squared away. But when a unit comes to camp, they can work with their voyager and say, this is something really cool that we want to see, or we want to try this portage, or we have a younger group, they haven't been out here before, so we kind of need to adjust the speed and intensity of our trek based on the skill level of our group. So units can really work with their voyager to tailor a trek that will work on all ends, that they're going to be excited about, that is appropriate for their skill level, and still help them develop those skills and enhance their wilderness skills. So that's something definitely unique and special about Floodwood for sure. You can definitely tailor your trek based on what you want to
Mhm.
do.
yeah. I think
Mhm.
Well,
it's what Jordan said about developing a trek. That's a real. It doesn't seem to be taken advantage of a lot, because sometimes I think not knowing a region, it can be a little overwhelming. Sometimes a stream on a map looks completely canoeable, but ground knowledge of the water levels and what beaver dam has been built over that stream and so forth make it impossible to go on a certain route. So there are very very good maps of the region, and kept very good, very well up to date. So that combination of what a trek group wants to do, where they want to go, and what we know from the local knowledge of the waterways and so forth. work well together. There's a leader's guide. We put out a leader's guide that has, oh, I don't know, Jordan, what, maybe 20 or so treks in there in that
Mm-hmm.
leader. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that uh, a lot of groups decide, we're going to do this trek, but maybe make a change. Maybe we're going to stay overnight, an extra night at a certain campsite, so we can climb Ampersand Mountain and get a view south of the high peaks, or something like that. But the majority of groups use use a trek out of the leader's guide as a core program or a base itinerary, and then kind of modify it a little bit here or there. And it also depends on the skill sets of the youth in the trek. And when Jordan mentioned before our Trekking 101 program, um, we developed that because we saw a need to offer an opportunity for getting younger scouts uh, in a trekking style camp, with going into the back country on a high adventure program, but to help them build and develop foundation skills. And we offered that as a provisional program, so troops can sign up, individual scouts, or as a full trekking program if it's a younger group. And that's it's for groups that are maybe not ready to go out for 5-day canoe trek because of physical skills, canoeing skills, and so forth, like that. So um, that's half in our. Let's see, Jordan, you wrote that itinerary. Half in Rollins Pond Canoe Base, and we say Rollins Pond to West Pine. Floodwood is our main base camp area is at West Pine Pond, and then we're surrounded by state forest, and then a 4-mile ride through a woods road through state forest hits Rollins Pond, which is our kind of an outpost camp area. And from Rollins Pond, you can access literally hundreds of miles of navigable waters in the Adirondacks. And that's where we do our water skiing and such when treks return there, because it's quite, in the Adirondacks, they call it a pond. Jordan and I are here in New Jersey. We would call it an ocean, I guess.
Comparatively, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So,
That's great.
yeah.
So what's the minimum age for scouts coming into this high adventure program?
Well, that's a great question. Last year, we used to have a minimum age of 14, but the minimum age has been dropped now to allow us to have an introduction program. So we strongly recommend to the adult leaders coming up that if it's a standard, a 4 or 5 day canoe trek, that you look at first class skills for rank, and stick to the old 14 age. But that's not a rule anymore because of our certification with the National Office of the Boy Scouts. And that's strong guidance. A Trekking 101 program, we can take any age, because we're not it's not as strenuous. I believe, what is it, 2 nights on the water, Jordan?
Yeah, yep, it's
Yeah,
real. It's not too physically demanding, high
right.
skill level. So,
Okay. So I mean, that's focused on building foundation skills, leave no trace ethics, and we do a hike up Floodwood Mountain, canoeing merit badge, and so forth. So we're able to take younger scouts for that. But good question, Rob. I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
number one question I get asked, because since we've introduced the introductory program, we've taken that off our website.
Yeah, it in some cases it's even 14-year-olds are not ready, and in our unit we it's dependent on, if we're going to Philmont, you're going to have to be physically active. If you're going to up the Boundary Waters, you're going to have some strength to go 50 or 60 miles on the water. And
mm,
there's a reason why high adventure is usually reserved for older scouts, because it keeps scouts in program. and gives them opportunities to do stuff besides the tradition of merit badges you do early on. So I'm definitely a proponent of making sure your physical strength is up to speed to where you can handle because you won't have a good time
Right.
if not. So is there a minimum maximum size for a crew that comes up to your location?
Yeah, Jordan, you want to handle that?
Um, yeah, I mean, we've had groups as small as 4 people come up, just some couple, 2 adults and 2 kids. So that's, I
Mm,
mean, as long as it's within the, of course, YPT requirements, and we have our two deep leadership, um, we're able to take those groups out. That's, yeah,
mm,
we had a group, I think it was the last week, and we had one of our 21-year-old Voyagers, they had one adult leader, and there were 3 scouts. So
mm,
that's a great opportunity for smaller groups.
right.
And then, of course, that gives you more options too as far as where you can go in the Adirondack Park. It gets kind of tricky when you have groups of 12 plus people. You kind of have to split into more than one trek. But yeah, that group size, as long as you're within YPT requirements, that's
Mhm.
really not an issue.
Yeah, no,
So
that's a good point.
mm,
What Jordan just said. So, depending where you're going, so when you head south from our base camps, you enter the Saranac Wilderness Forest region. So the Adirondacks is split into wilderness regions, and depending what area you're traveling in, two things fall in play: the permits that our trek director coordinates with the district rangers for that region, but also the size of the trek. So, um, and now the size of that trek can vary from 12 people. So 12 is kind of like the max for a single trek, but
mhm,
it can go down to 8 also. So now, when you sort of think about that, an 8-person trek, when you go north of our area into the St. Regis Wilderness area, which is a very pristine area. I mean, you could go up there and not see another canoer. A few more portages involved, depending on the miles you want to get in, but because it's a little bit more remote and wild, and the state is working to keep it that way. The group size can only be 8. So now you have 8. You're going to have two. If you're sending two adults from your hometown, and we attach a Voyager, so that's five scouting bodies on that trek. And 8 is to make up 8 bodies, and that would be 4 canoes. Then
mhm,
there are a couple lakes in the southern area that limit the campground size, but there are a few group camp sizes. So pre-planning is critical. If you show up and say, okay, we're going to plan this the day before where we're going to go, it's entirely possible you can't get the proper permits
mhm,
for where
yeah.
you want to go. So you have to give some pre-thought into that size group. So, yeah, Jordan, I forgot we had that small group. They must have had a blast, huh?
It was. I mean, it was really neat. Like, I actually had the opportunity to paddle out and meet up with them on their trek, and it's just a very personal and empowering experience when you give the scouts in a group that small the opportunity to develop their leadership skills and develop their wilderness skills one on one with an experienced voyager. It's a very cool thing to see. Um, these kids were pretty shy at the beginning of the week. They were pretty quiet, pretty reserved. But when I met up with them at the end of the week, they were chatting. One busted out a recorder at some point at the campfire and was playing the recorder for everyone. But it was really cool to see the development of their skills. Um, from being just really quiet, nobody wanting to take initiative, nobody wanted to be the first to do anything. By the end of the week, setting up their own campsite, it was like a little well-oiled machine. One person was getting the firewood, one person was getting water to filter, and it was just it's really cool to see that development of skills and confidence in the youth. And I think that's just another really special thing about Floodwood is that one-on-one interaction with the Voyager can really help you develop that stuff. And there's nothing more empowering than being out in the wilderness. I I can navigate in a canoe. I can find a campsite. I can set up my tent. I can cook a meal over a fire. I can poop in the woods, you know? Like these are things that kids never really think about that you know, can just develop confidence and leadership skills in other areas of life too. And that's really special.
Exactly, exactly. Now, do you guys on these treks? Do you guys provide the tents and equipment, or is there something troop wise or trek wise that the crews need to bring with them?
We provide two. Uh, the trek like trek gear or group gear as far as stoves, fuel, um, water filtration equipment, bear bag, and such. The camp provides. We have supplemented many groups with gear, so I would say personal camping gear, including tents. Hammocks are probably, I think, Jordan, you're a hammock camper, I think.
Yeah.
Probably.
I'm ambidextrous. I
Oh,
go both ways. Tents and hammocks.
yeah. Hammocks or tents, the personal camping equipment um, is brought up by the unit, and we get calls once in a while. We do have tents, we do have gear. But we can't outfit 100 people a week with that. So we supplement gear for personal gear, but any if you kind of envision it like any patrol gear, cooking gear, pots, pans, fuel, stoves, that's all supplied by the camp.
Right,
And what
right,
the Voyagers do the night before, they'll when groups come into camp, they'll submit requests, and the Voyagers stay up tonight pulling the food, which is predominantly dehydrated, but some fresh food for the first night or two out on a trek. They're pulling the food that's needed for the group, as well as getting the gear together, and then um, the treks split that up. However, they want to divvy that up, either into um, separate bags or distributed amongst the trek members for taking out. So kind of a mix, and we work with every group to make sure that if they're short something, we can supplement it, because it's quite an extensive quartermaster area that we have there at the camp. I miss anything on that, Jordan?
No, not really. I mean, to that extent, though, we do encourage youth leadership as much as possible. So a lot of units already come up with a senior patrol leader designated, or you know they that's something they kind of work out on their own. But we kind of the Voyager is there to guide the SPL through the process of, okay, what gear do we need, what do we have, and let's go down the list and check off anything else we need. Yep, we need a stove, we need 2 canisters of fuel, we need a water filter, etc. So really let the youth drive that and develop those leadership skills is important. Same thing with selecting the food. We give them a menu of everything that we have, and then we encourage the youth leaders to go through and choose what they're going to want throughout the week. And of course, the Voyager can give those insider tips. And actually, this dehydrated breakfast isn't as good as that one, and stuff like that. But we really try to let the youth drive that and
Mhm.
make it their own, make it special for them. That's it's really neat.
Exactly.
Mm.
Now, how early does a unit need to get in touch with you guys to get the spot they want? I mean, is it the summer before, or is it long? What's that process look like?
We normally the our ability to send treks out depends on the number of staff we have, and obviously the
Mhm.
staff is hired. You're not hiring people the day of the day of
Right.
going out. So um, it's a little easy. I encourage you, once they make a decision to go, um, just to reserve the trek with a trek deposit, and
Hmm.
that holds the spot. The uh, the numbers the numbers of scouts and leaders in the trek, that can be developed. We don't need to know that weeks and weeks before. We're going to have everything, as long as we know the trek is coming. We'll have adequate resources to support. Okay.
Yep, you can go in this summer before, pretty much as soon as the dates and the pricing is set for the next year. The registration system is open. I know we have a few deposits in already, so I'm not positive if the website is live for that, but certainly calling the council office, that way you can reserve your trek. So I know right now that's open for 2021.
Right. And that's the Rob. That's the advice I would give all of was the committee chair or the whatever adult was like initiating contact. It said, when should we do it? Said, look, reserve your spot. I mean, it's a $250 deposit to reserve a trek, and that's refundable. So you're just locking in the trek, and then you develop you fine tune the numbers as that information comes in, and you get the commitment from scouts and adults or who's going to go. We've even had treks come up and pay, make final payment and final arrangement. Oh, we thought you were coming with 6. Oh no, we have 8.
Well, we don't like that per
we
se.
don't like.
I mean,
Okay, I retract that statement. But the longest we, long as we're within the regulations of the Adirondack Park, we could still send them out. We can't exceed that unit, exceed those numbers, and that would be an issue on the other end. So
exactly. All right, my gosh, we've covered a lot of ground here. Is there anything you guys want to add before we kind of close things out?
Yeah, let's Jordan, what's the portal for information? Where should people go?
Absolutely. Yep. Folks can go onto our council website. So that would be nnjbsa.org/Floodwood. And that's kind of a good central hub of all the information about Trekking 101. We do have some provisional programs available. That's something we didn't really touch on, but that information is available on our website. And yeah, I mean, that's definitely the best place to go. Or, of course, I mean, if anyone has the opportunity to talk to Steve or our council camping director for the council, that's, we're all just so enthusiastic, and we just want to share the good news about Floodwood. We want to spread the information far and wide as much as possible. It's really a gem, and we just really want to share the beauty of Floodwood and of the Adirondacks with as many people as we can.
And I assume they can go right to floodwood.org also.
Floodwood.org is a good site too. That is not a council website. That's run by the Floodwood Association, but chock full of information. Sometimes not quite as up to date as the council webpage would be, but there's a great video I know on the Floodwood.org site, which I think is embedded also on the council site, which gives a real good feel for the region and what the program is about. So they both the Floodwood.org and the nnjbsa.org/Floodwood site, they kind of complement each other. And people can email me at any time, floodwoodmtndirector@gmail. Pretty good about getting back with people's questions about.
And I think that's the email we list on the website also. So,
right. That's
so
that's how
you'll get all the calls.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
no problem.
That's what you signed up for.
I look
that's
forward
right.
to it.
Well, great information, Stephen and Jordan. I want to thank you for joining us today, and I appreciate it.
Okay, it was really our pleasure. Appreciate you reaching out.
Sure. And I want to thank Stephen and Jordan from Floodwood Scout Reservation with joining us today and talking about their program. You can get more information on their programs at nnjbsa.org/Floodwood. It's nnjbsa.org/Floodwood. Thanks for joining us today, and remember to tell your friends about this podcast. You can find us online at highadventurescouting.com, on Facebook or Instagram. If you have any questions or ideas for future podcasts, just email us at info@highadventurescouting.com. This podcast and website are independent and not affiliated with any youth organization. Happy High Adventure! This has been a production of High Adventure Resources.